We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including a handful of teams looking at some trade talk around the NHL. Tonight's teams we're discussing include the Florida Panthers, the Colorado Avalanche, Boston Bruins, Pittsburgh Penguins, Carolina Hurricanes, and the New York Rangers. Plus, we have a big update as well on the NHL waiver wire, lots of injury updates around the NHL, some more updates on what cities are trying to host the World Cup in 2028, and some unfortunate news regarding former NHLer Ryan Kesler. A lot more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. We'll kick things off first with some news from the NHL waiver wire. Yesterday, we had a couple of players on waivers, including Lightning forward Mitchell Chaffee, and of course, Brett Leeson, who had signed a new one-year, two-way contract to rejoin the Capitals, needed waivers to be able to be sent down to the American Hockey League. Both of those players ended up clearing, so no claims were made. Today, on waivers, we have Colorado Avalanche forward Trent Miner. So we'll find out tomorrow if he clears or is picked up or what his status is on that front. Now, we've heard lots about the World Cup, and it'll likely take place, or principal on pace to take place in 2028. We know that the NHL has put out a bidding process for cities to host games in that tournament. It's quite possible they're going to hold some games in North America, some games in Europe. Wouldn't be surprised if there's two cities with at least a couple of games in one of the major European markets. So I haven't heard a whole lot of speculation on which European markets may be trying to get in on that action, but we've heard a variety of places in North America. We heard that the city of Toronto, which was pretty much always to be expected to be in the mix, actually is not bidding for this one, but a couple of Alberta cities are, and that's Calgary and Edmonton. Of course, by the time the World Cup happens in 2028, the Flames are expected to have their new building. Of course, the Oilers have a pretty new arena that's very modern and one of the top ones in the NHL. So lots of great options there. Makes a lot of sense for both to be considered host, or either on their own or together, depending on how they go about things. But both of those Alberta cities very much in the mix here. We had heard, there could be some other Canadian cities, I think to some degree Vancouver, Montreal. I'm not sure about Ottawa, but I heard Montreal and Vancouver may have some interest. Montreal is always a major hockey market. And then, of course, we know there's going to be at least a few American markets want to host that as well. Several NHL injury updates, roster moves, etc. Regarding some player personnel here. We got the Devils today confirmed that the injury to Brett Pesce will be a longer-term injury, and he's going to be out for approximately a month, so that's obviously not good news on that front. The St. Louis Blues had announced the other day that Robert Thomas and Jake Neighbors were going to be out of action, miss a game, and they were going to still being evaluated. Well, the news on Neighbors isn't good. He's only going to be reevaluated in 5 weeks. That doesn't guarantee a return in 5 weeks. That's reevaluated. So, we're looking probably at a 6 to 8 week return, possibly, depending on how things go at the 5 week mark. So that is not good. Obviously, Neighbors, a young player that's an important piece there in St. Louis, and the Blues haven't had the greatest start to the year, losing him for a long period of time. Certainly not going to make matters any better. The San Jose Sharks have recalled Patrick Giles, so he's back on the NHL roster. The Senators have returned goaltender Hunter Shepard back to Belleville, the American Hockey League. He was recalled yesterday strictly just to give Linus Ullmark a full day off. So Marilainen played the game versus the Bruins, and then Shepard was the backup so that they didn't have Linus dress. He could have a little bit of rest, and then Shepard back to the American Hockey League today. The Sens, of course, we're on a back-to-back, and Ullmark is playing tonight in Chicago. Marilainen will back up. The Vancouver Canucks injury updates there. We are expected to be without Victor Mancini and Derek Forbort for a period of time. They haven't given us firm timelines just yet, so we don't know, but they are going to miss likely multiple games. Quinn Hughes is still out day-to-day as well, and there is some speculation Tom Willander could make his NHL debut today. Waiting to confirm that, though. Rangers forward Matt Rempe, of course, one of the biggest players in the NHL, one of the top scrappers in the league, is going to be out for an extended period of time as well. We don't have an exact timeline, but they're saying it's at the very least multiple weeks. It might be multiple months. It's not expected to be season ending or anything like that, but it could be extended. So it could be as much as a couple months before he's back. Could be Christmas time or the January. It's hard to say, but it will be quite a substantial absence. The Flyers today recalled defenseman Emil Andrea as well, so he's back in the NHL. Scott Sabourin recalled again by Tampa. Obviously, he's still trying to complete the suspension. The Buffalo Sabres are getting some help tonight with the debut of Michael Kesler, who, of course, came over along with Josh Stone of the J.J. Peterka trade to the Utah Mammoth this summer. Kesler was a player they really liked and pushed to get into that deal, and unfortunately had some injury situations arise in the preseason, so he has not yet been able to play for Buffalo. And today, against the Jackets, he's making his Sabres debut. The Penguins today also recalled young defenseman Owen Pickering, so he's back up to the NHL. And the Devils have activated Juho Lammikko, but they've had to move Cody Glass to injured reserve, so he's going to be out for a little while here as well. Now, as I mentioned, another situation that's not great to talk about, not fun to talk about, and some not great news, but former NHLer, spent most of his career with the Vancouver Canucks, of course, played with the Anaheim Ducks as well, part of the U.S. national program. Ryan Kesler, a very well-known player, is facing some pretty serious allegations and charges today, charged with 2 counts of criminal sexual assault. I believe it's considered 4th-degree criminal sexual assault. He has pled not guilty and vows that he is innocent. He's vehemently denying this situation. And not only is he saying that he's not guilty, but he's pretty adamant that he's not and is willing to do what he's got to do to clear his name. So we'll see. Obviously, the alleged situation took place. The crimes that he's being accused of allegedly took place January the 1st in Orchard Lake, Michigan. Of course, Michigan native Kesler has been the head coach of the U15 AAA team that his son was playing on. He has been removed from that position. It wasn't clear based on the statement that they put out if he's completely fired or if he's just on leave while this is taking place. I would suspect they would probably want to see how things play out because, in some cases, if he gets his name cleared, maybe they'll take him back. I don't know exactly what the situation is, but at the very least, for the time being, he's been removed from his position of head coach of that team. So not good. Both of these situations as well. The alleged situation involves sexual contact with a 16-year-old through what they call force or coercion. So some pretty serious, damning accusations. Not a good look for sure, but at the same time, there is a process to go through, and I know there's going to be a lot of people jump all over making him guilty, but we don't know that yet. I mean, if these things are true, it's a despicable thing, and he'll pay the price. And if it's not true, then, obviously he could still be found not guilty. So we'll wait and reserve judgment later, but it's just another unfortunate situation that it just seems like in the world of hockey, we can't go too long of a stretch without one of these things popping up. And, as soon as you think you see and hear things and you think maybe the culture around the game is getting better, and then something pops up. And it's not even so much that, see, that's the thing though, is his personal actions, even though they're not technically related to hockey, you got to remember he's in a very influential position as a head coach of a AAA team of, boys that would be 13, 14 years old, right? So, you got to set the example of not only how to be a good hockey player and how to, be, how to conduct yourself on the ice, but off the ice as well. I know as a coach, and I've coached a lot of youth sports, and you want to leave your athletes hopefully not only improving as athletes in their sport, but improving as people. And, obviously, it's a big thing, right? So you can't have people around being in influential positions if they're doing these types of behaviors. Now, like I said, though, this is an alleged crime. He's facing some serious charges, but we'll wait and see how things play out, and we'll reserve judgment until we know the outcome of that case. Now, some other news around the NHL. The Avalanche signed one of their prospects today. Tristan Nielsen, the forward, gets a 2-year entry-level contract, so he's officially signed up in Colorado. And the Dallas Stars are closing in on a major big-time extension for defenseman Thomas Harley, who's still almost approaching his mid-20s, has proved to be a major an asset for the Stars on the back end. The contract is expected to be an 8-year deal, approximately $10.5+ million. So we'll wait and see when this is officially announced. As I record this video, of course, it's Tuesday evening, about 7:40-ish Eastern time as I speak right now. I can see on the clock here behind the camera. So as of right now, that has not been announced, but I've seen from Pierre LeBrun and Elliotte Friedman both confirming that they're closing in on this extension, so it's very much expected to happen. The exact number that I just gave you might be off just a smidge. It's going to be very close to that, but 8-year deal, approximately $10.5 million. Which is huge for the Dallas Stars. It's not a bad deal for Harley. I mean, he's, like I said, he's 24 years old. They're buying up a bunch of UFA years. He's been a really good, two-way defenseman. Had a chance to play with Team Canada at the Four Nations. Didn't look out of place. He is a big part of the team's future, no doubt. I honestly wondered if he might even get a smidge more. I think this is a pretty fair contract. The D market's been pretty insane here. So to keep that number, that is pretty good. Like every time the Stars make a move like this, and it's not Jason Robertson, I can't help but wonder if he's going to be able to work things out for him to stay. Of course, we know that in Robertson's case, it's very much a given that they're not going to want to go anything above Mikko Rantanen. In fact, they're going to want to be probably a decent amount below. I mean, no disrespect to Jason Robertson. He's a heck of a player, but Rantanen certainly has a better resume with a Stanley Cup on it, some higher point totals. Really, he's been a phenomenal player in the NHL. So, I suspect as the Stars want to keep Robertson's number probably somewhere, in this range. Probably looking at a $9 to $10 million contract, maybe a little bit above 10, but it's going to be challenging for them to do that, right? Thankfully, they have a rising cap situation, so it makes it a little bit easier than it would have if in the flat cap year that we just came through after the COVID, flat cap. No real changes there except for $1 million a year. That kind of hurt for an extended period of time for a lot of teams, especially. But yeah, we'll see if Robertson can work things out. But with Harley getting his done, like I said, it makes it a little bit more challenging again to get Robertson done. So we'll have to see what his future holds. Some other updates today as well. I know one regarding the Florida Panthers. Their beat reporter for the Hockey News, David Dwork, is saying that the Florida Panthers are scouring the trade market for help on the blue line. Of course, the team has some injuries. We know that. They're dealing with a lot of adversity. They had a really good start to the season. And then last, 6-7 games have been a tough stretch for the defending back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, and they're looking for a little bit of help. They don't have a lot of cap room, but they are a notorious team that's been a phenomenal job. Bill Zito and his staff have been great at finding value. Players that can exceed their contracts and give them terrific value for what they make has been a huge part of that team being able to be back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. Look at the guys they've gotten on bargain contracts that are turned into really good players. Carter Verhaeghe, a prime example of that. Gustav Forsling, another prime example of that. Nico Mikkola, another prime example of that. Sam Bennett came over from Calgary, not making a lot of money, turned out to be a star player for them. Great example of that. Outside of Matthew Tkachuk and Barkov, who were making big money as soon as they were eligible to, there's a lot of other players on that team that have some pretty good contracts. Even the value that they got out of the Marchand and Ekblad extensions in the offseason, along with Bennett, are all really good contracts. This team doesn't really have bad contracts. There was a point in time when the Bobrovsky contract looked bad in the first couple of years of it, but then he certainly found his game again and turned it on, and well, here we are. So we'll see what the Panthers find. They haven't been linked to any specific players just yet, that they're looking at a lot of different options on defense. They did pick up Donovan Sabrango from the Senators on waivers back last week or so. So we'll see if they find a role for him or if they want to try to find something a little bit more experienced. But look for Florida to try to do something here soon in that regard. Frank Saravalli was reporting today as well that he expects that, we heard a lot about the Canes being a big game hunter And a lot of people have linked them to a centerman like Nazem Kadri. There's lots of talk around Kadri, all kinds of talk. We heard Carolina coming out of the woodwork yesterday by some reporters. We've heard a lot about the Canucks and the Habs in the past. And, well, according to Sarah Valley, another name to watch for Carolina, not just a centerman. I know a lot of people say they're heavy on the wings, but Frank Saravalli really sees a possibility where if the Rangers season doesn't turn around, that they could be a prime market for Artemi Panarin. The belief is that the Rangers tried to extend Panarin. We've talked about this before. In the offseason, they wanted him to take a pretty healthy discount on his current contract to extend for a few years, and he had absolutely zero interest in that, according to reports that he and his agent are looking to get another home run contract in free agency. Again, obviously he has a lot of say here over where he goes. He's got a no trade protection, so he's not going to go if he doesn't want to. But, if things don't turn around, the belief is they'll initiate conversations with Panarin to see if they can't move him along to another team as a rental player. And Carolina, according to Frank, would be very much at the top, or he would be at the top of their list. We don't know if he would feel the same, but Sarah Valley feels he would be a great fit there. I know a lot of other people think that they would more likely target a centerman, which is why a guy like Kadri would be very much attractive. But as we heard about with Kadri, the Flames at this point, they don't feel rushed to make this trade. Kadri's got some term. They're not at risk to lose him. Yes, they have having a bad start to the season. I think they should turn the roster over a little bit more. Maybe they get to that point here soon. It's hard to say, but if they do and Kadri just decide that he's willing to move, there's going to be a long list of suitors. So, will Carolina be a team to watch? Absolutely. But, they'll have lots of competition. But as far as Panarin goes, that'd be more of a dictation of him saying that he wants to go there. But they do have some other Russian players. I know that seems to be important to a lot of these guys. So we'll see. I know in Pittsburgh, Malcolm would have been a name that we were watching as well. We weren't expecting to see them have such a good start to the season. I'm not entirely convinced that they're going to be able to keep this up for too long, but Malkin and Crosby are playing very well. And according to some reports around the Penguins, that Kyle Dubas is actually looking for help on the blue line so that he might actually add. Now, they do want to continue the same philosophy here. I don't see them adding any kind of veteran players with term or anything. They want to turn the roster over. But like I said, they're only going to trade Malkin or Crosby if they really want to. Like, they're going to have to go to the Penguins and be like, okay, I've decided I want to move on. We're not competitive. Don't want to lose anymore. I want to go chase the Stanley Cup again. But until that happens, Dubas isn't going to do that. Now, Erik Karlsson's another completely different situation. We know with Karlsson's had a pretty good start to the year offensively. He's going to probably get some interest, so we'll see about him. But when it comes to Pittsburgh, Dubas is apparently looking for help on the blue line in Eric Gustafsson, who's basically out of a role and an extra player, if you will, with the Red Wings, is a player that Dubas is reportedly looking at. So we'll see if that turns into anything. But with some injuries in the blue line, they're looking for a bit of a veteran with a little bit of experience on our short-term contract to come in and kind of help things out here a little bit. Now, when it comes to Boston, we've heard tons about Pavel Zacha here in recent days. He was a topic of conversation on TSN Insider Trading today with Pierre LeBrun and Chris Johnson. Essentially, they were saying that at this point, the Bruins, they might move him. A lot of these reporters have confirmed that the Canucks have been in on conversations about him dating back to the summer. They've inquired multiple times. We've heard about Montreal maybe being a potential spot. Some reporters even think that the Edmonton Oilers might be a potential landing spot for Zacha, that he would make a lot of sense if they could slot him on the third line as a centerman, and that allows Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to play more of a wing position in the top six. Might be a way for them to add depth-wise to improve the wings, but by adding a center to move Nuge to the wing. So we'll see about that. The other part about Zacha that they talked about on Insider Trading on TSN was that they don't even know for sure that the Bruins really want to move him. They don't feel like they need to. They don't feel rushed. The Bruins have had an awful stretch of hockey here, and they're certainly looking like they will be that lottery team that a lot of us expected. After a 3-0 start, I think they've lost what is it? Is it 6 of 7 or 7 of 8? I can't remember where they're at now. I think it's 6 of 7, pretty sure. And of course, they're playing tonight like everybody else because it is the Frozen Frenzy night as well. I meant to mention off the top, all 32 teams in action with staggered schedule. It's a fun night. Kind of weird to have it in the middle of a week on a Tuesday. Weekends are usually better so they can start the games earlier in the day. But all kinds of NHL action to keep your eye on this evening. And of course, you still got the World Series going on. Plus, basketball started up if you're an NBA fan. And, it's that time of year where all the major sports are going to some extent, not every day, but at least, to every week. So we'll see here how things go. But Bruins may not move Zacha. They don't feel rushed. There's even a possibility they decide that they'd like him to be part of the solution long term and might even try to sign him, according to Pierre LeBrun. But I wonder if that might be something that his agent or the team might have fed, the reporters trying to up his value. If they think that maybe he's not going to move, it just might be a way to say, like, you're not offering enough, so we're just going to keep him. So either up your ante or don't bother calling back type of thing. So we'll see. But Zacha, hot commodity, but doesn't necessarily mean he's going to move. Marty Necas is another player to watch as well. I know Pierre LeBrun talked about him, but the belief right now is that it's more likely than not that he's going to stay in Colorado. At least LeBrun is reporting on TSN that there is a gap in negotiations, but the Avalanche are very confident that they can overcome it and get this player signed long term. Of course, they got a big Makar extension looming next year as well, so they need to keep that in mind. And it's going to be very challenging from a cap perspective to get Necas done. I'm not sure if they may have to do another cost-cutting move or something like that. They'll probably worry about that for next year. But right now, Necas, they're hoping that he'll kind of fall in line with their structure. If you look at where McKinnon's at, where Makar is going to be, there's going to be a max number they're going to want to go to, but they feel like he's been a good fit. They don't really want to go down the route of a trade, but if they end up in a scenario like they did with Rantanen, you can't help but wonder if they might do it again. But the belief is that they don't want to, and that they feel pressured to get him signed and make this work. And I think Necas and his agent likely are aware of the leverage they have in that regard as well. So, which is why right now there is a gap in negotiations. So we're going to have to wait and see where it goes. But again, right now things are pointing towards him staying. But if negotiations don't go well over the next, 4, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, then maybe we'll start hearing a different tone out of the Avalanche organization and see if there's maybe another move that could satisfy things. But obviously that's why they traded Rantanen, because they had a price that they wouldn't go over. Will they do the same with him? Only time will tell. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.